Alright, slightly different build. Magicka Nightblade update 41, but this one is more of a support slash damage build. You may ask, like, what do you mean support slash damage? Well, I mainly came up with this for small scale, you know, when you're running with 4 people. Or if you're running with, like, I don't know, 6 people. Basically, this is more oriented for a small group, which means you don't have to be as sweaty when it comes to damage, and you can afford to help your friends a bit more. Mind you, you can technically already do this with my normal range Magicka Nightblade build, but this one leans more into, like, being supportive of your friends. It does kind of still require light attack weaving to an extent, because you still want to be able to do damage. Part of this build is that you want to still kind of be able to hold your own, but don't expect to be getting kills while you're solo, because this thing does not have enough damage to get solo kills. It might have enough damage to get like half of someone's health bar, but you're gonna need your friends to finish that kill. But you're gonna be buffing your friends, so hopefully, you know, kind of all works out. The crux of this is a back bar set that I used to use back when funnel health did full damage. And that is why we're using funnel health. We're using transmutation, a classic support set. If I'm in a group with people who have rallying cry, I'll use transmutation. That way we aren't overlapping rallying cries, which has no downside, but like, why do it when you can have something else? So how do we proc transmutation? Well, we've got good old radiating regen. This is pretty standard. You could totally take this off your bar though, because that's part of why funnel health is here. Funnel and refreshing path are here to help us passively proc that ability. Funnel is a smart heal. It will go to whoever's health is lowest. This does not do that much damage, but we're mostly using it to proc the heal. So we're going to be using this to do supplemental amounts of damage. Most of our damage is going to come in the form of Merciless Resolve, because our Merciless is still going to hit fairly hard. As for front bar, we have a lot of different options. I'm using War Maiden right here just because it makes my tooltips higher. And let's be honest, if I was in a group of 2 or 3, I still want to be doing decent damage, and so I would still use War Maiden. Hell, I might even use Swallow Soul still, because at that point, you really need to be able to carry your weight a little bit more. And that way, I'd just be relying off of Radiant Regen to do the Transmutation proc, because Transmutation is on our back bar. Now, I do have a couple of options for both your front bar and back bar. You can pick different monster sets. I choose Bloodspawn because it's nice to be able to shit out Resto alt. As for a front bar, I like Incap because occasionally I need to make my own contributing kills, but if you're working with the group, you might want to replace that with Tether or Dawnbreaker so that you can all do a bunch of damage in one spot. On your front bar, you could use Soul Cleaver, you know? It's a fun thing. It's not super good, but it's not bad either. The only reason I wouldn't use it is because it does affect your ultimate generation, and you want to be using your ultimate on either dumping with your group, you know, everyone Dawnbreaker in one spot, or you want to be saving their ass with Life Giver. Another one you could do is Night Mother's Gaze. Because you're using a lightning staff, you know, you can do a heavy attack, you can help debuff people around you, and that way, you know, everyone's gonna have the major armor debuff, but you can also get that with Caltrops. It is an option. That would definitely be something for a specialized group. I wouldn't use it personally, but it is an option. Spell Power Cure I considered, but because it requires your people to be at full health, I'm not going to suggest it. But rather than Spell Power Cure, I was also thinking Powerful Assault. Now, if you do Powerful Assault, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put Transmutation on your front bar, because Transmutation will proc eventually. What matters is that you heal someone while there's a heal over time effect over them. So I could have it on my back bar. When I switch to my back bar, as long as 1 tick of healing happens on a friendly, while I'm on my back bar, they will get Transmutation. I can switch back to my front bar perfectly fine. So as I would probably want to put this on my front bar, because Powerful Assault requires the assault skill to be cast on the same bar. So Transmutation goes on front bar and Powerful Assault goes on back bar, and that will buff your guys. Or girls, probably guys. The only thing that I am kind of concerned with this build is that the crit is a little low, and so you might want to change around the CP. You want to keep the defensive CP as it is, Duelist rebuff and Ironclad, that'll keep you from getting bursted down. But instead of maybe Master at Arms, you could switch to something that increases healing. That is going to be a personal choice. I still recommend fighting Finesse because the critical healing modifier is nice, and you're still doing damage. You want to be doing damage with your allies because you still do, what is that, 17k Merciless with Battle Spirit. That'll probably be like 8k crit. So an 8k crit is still desirable. It will definitely help if you're working with the group. So just to go over the abilities again, with the more kind of in-depth look of it. Funnel health, you could use Swallow, but I like Funnel because it helps me proc Transmutation, and if I'm in a large-ish group, I don't need to worry about my damage as much, and my damage can mostly come from just weaving Funnel and light attack spamming and then occasionally using Merciless Resolve to help people secure that kill. Shadow Image, this is just a mobility option. If you're dead, then your guys might die because you're helping supplement their healing capabilities. Debilitate, this is probably your flex spot. Debilitate applies a little extra pressure, and pressure is nice. It also has a snare, which is nice. But the main reason I kind of like this is because it can help with not only your magic regen, but your allies' magic regen. So it's kind of a sustainability. Otherwise, you could use like Ellie Drain, but I just use Debilitate. Refreshing Path helps with your mobility, helps with everyone's mobility and everyone's sustain, but this will also help you proc Transmutation. So we just want to maximize our Transmutation uptime, and that's part of why we have both, three heal over time effects. The issue is that if I were to just use my normal damage build and then put Transmutation in my back bar, I would have to rely solely on Refreshing Path. And since people tend to spread out a little, it's not the most reliable way of doing it. Back bar, we have Cloak. Having a healer that can get behind enemy lines is kind of nice. Radiant Regen, you could use the other version, but because this will buff up to 3 people, it works nicely if you're in a group of 4. But if you're only duoing with a friend and you just want to support your friend, then this probably does not matter as much in reality. Resolving Vigor, this is a heal for you. You could take the other morph, but because this is, again, a small scale oriented build, you need to be able to carry your own weight, which means you're going to need to have that minor resolve so that you don't die. This is your burst heal. This is good for duoing. It always is, but now that we're more healer oriented, we can actually spam this a little more. This is our sustain skill. Enough said. This can help with our offensive capability because people don't have to worry about taking damage during their offensive windows, and that is something that a lot of newer players of PvP don't realize is offensive windows and defensive windows. That is why you might die sometimes. I was fighting a Dragon Knight earlier, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I was too aggressive," and I'm like, "Well, I baited you into an offensive window, and then I incapped you and killed you because you weren't expecting to get hit during your offensive window because you thought you were good." So having Life Giver up will help everyone with that. Furthermore, you could also use the new monster set that gives minor force with the shield, but I would mostly use that for an Arcanist, doing a shield stacking thing. It is possible. I would not use it for this sort of setup because, again, this is designed for a group of up to maybe 6 people. This is not made for a really good ball group of 10 players. This is for much smaller stuff. Now, another thing you could do is use instead of a Resto Staff, you could use a Ice Staff. I'm just going to put a random Ice Staff on so I can show you the bar, although I don't think I have a Transmutation Ice Staff on me. Oh no, I do. That's even better. So, take these off. This is what our bar is going to look like without our abilities. This is definitely for a more coordinated group. The best way to do this is to have someone with negate. So you're going to want a Sork in your group. Elemental Rage, and then you could put Elisus here, but let's be honest, almost everyone in your group is using Elisus. So instead, maybe we can use Wall of Elements because that will give you the little damage shield, which isn't much in Cyrodiil, but it's nice, and it does have the chance to slow people down. But the main reason we're doing this is because when you cast this on a location, it will immobilize people. and they will want to get out of the way. That means they're going to dodge roll to break the immobilization, and what happens when they're dodge rolling? They can't use abilities, and they can get hit by AoEs. So if you've got a bunch of people with Dawnbreaker, you got someone with Negate, and then you drop this is still going to do a decent amount of damage. It's not that great, but you drop this down. This is PvE Destro, by the way. This isn't Eye of the Storm. This is good for like clearing out a flag. After you pop all those ultimates, you can just clear out this one spot. It's very useful. I've done it in Battlegrounds before. Generally, I would not recommend doing this unless you had a coordinated group. You could also just, not use this, and this could be a flex spot for you. But if you're going to do this build, it's obviously something that you're going to be more damage-oriented. So I would actually not use Funnel Health, and I would instead just use Swallow Soul. That is my take on that. As for potions and your usual... Or not potions, bleh. As for consumables, I'm just using Jewels of Misrule, which is, pretty standard. Potions, I'm using PvE spell power potions because we don't have a source of brutality, or not brutality, or sorcery and brutality on this. So, you're gonna have to supplement that in some way. That's just typically how our planes range Magicblade. You could put sap in your flex spot instead of debilitate, for instance, and that way you would get that. But as a healer, or support character, you don't want to use your stam up that much because you want to be able to break free if you need to. And we already have our stam being used up by Vigor occasionally, and dodge rolling, and blocking. So, it is something you can do, especially because it would debuff your opponents. So, it's not a useless idea, but I would generally keep that in mind. As for your Mundus, this is going to be probably the most flexible aspect. You do you. I'm still using the Shadow because, as I said, I like to still do some damage, and I want to be able to help people burst down our enemies. So Shadow works for me. But optimally, I would suggest the Thief or the Mag Regen Mundus if you are having issues with sustain because you're you're hitting healthy offering too much, which is kind of expected. So the main takeaway from this is kind of what you got here. Your front bar you can change to a support-oriented set or a damage-oriented set depending on the situation you are in. The back bar you generally always want to be transmutation. The front bar, both debilitate and funnel, can be switched out for different skills. Funnel, you probably want it to be Swallow Soul because that just helps with your survivability, and it does more damage, and therefore you can assist your team in killing people more. And then debilitate, I mostly use this to help with my team's sustain, but you can also use it, for a little bit of additional pressure. Front bar, again, this is also something you can flex out. You can use Tether or Dawnbreaker to help with, your entire group dumping on one spot. I think that covers all of it. Red CP you can see here, green CP you can see here. These don't matter as much. Relentlessness is just nice because, you get stunned sometimes. Pain's Refuge, vital for PvP, and then Fortified and Rejuvenation is just a personal choice. Yeah. If you are struggling with your magic sustain and you are using the Atronach, I think is the one that gives you the extra magic regen, then you could change out your rings. Like I'm doing both of these are infused damage enchantments, but then I have a 1 Magicka regen enchantment. But you shouldn't have problems because you already have 2 lines of magic regen from transmutation, plus siphoning attacks got buffed. So you should be good to go. Though I said this is like a small scale thing for PvP, you could also use this in Battlegrounds, but this is again something that you would want to be coordinated with. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave them in the comments section. Like, subscribe, whatever the hell you want. This is kind of more of an experimental build. I have tried it and it has worked, but this is definitely a little bit off from what I usually do. So if you try it out and you have feedback, absolutely let me know, because I am curious about what other people's thoughts about this are as well. Because if I just listen to myself, then I'm an idiot. I need to listen to other people. I hope everyone has a wonderful day and good luck out there.